First things first, before I get started, I just want to let y'all know that I'm going to go ahead and apologize for my voice ahead of time or any sipping sounds you may hear, because I'm coming down with some kind of cold and it's making my voice sound terrible. So I made myself some hot lemon water, I think is what this is, but we'll see if it helps. Anywho, I was watching the most recent episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and I think at some point, maybe it was like in mid-episode, it hit me that I wasn't tense. I was just watching a story. No narrative gymnastics or like 400 fucking support characters or any kind of sense that the show was embarrassed to be sincere. No, I was just watching some guy on the road trying to be a better person than he was the day before. And that's when I realized, it's like, holy shit, we almost never get this anymore. Which is a wild thing to say, because fantasy used to be all about that. I'm not saying it was about childish optimism, no, it was more about aspiration. You don't watch fantasy to be reminded that everyone is secretly awful and morality is fake and power always wins. No, you watched it because fantasy used to say things like, yeah, the world is dangerous, but people can be better.
But there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
That's like the entire recipe of what Tolkien baked into the genre, just clear good, clear evil, and characters who choose where they stand. Not because real life is that simple, but because stories are allowed to aim higher than reality. And somewhere along the line, we all decided that that was embarrassing. Now, to be fair, this shift did not come out of nowhere. I mean, we all know what it was. I mean, Game of Thrones was a cultural nuke. Y'all just had to be there when it came out. At its peak, it was thrilling, there was no plot armor, no safety nets, and death meant something. We had just finished basking in the glory of the Return of the King, so it took fantasy out of its comfort zone and made it feel dangerous again. And yes, I know there was a good chunk of years between the two properties, but nothing else came out in that time period. But anyway, the genre honestly needed this shakeup. It helped reinvigorate things, but here's where things went sideways. As per usual, everyone copied the tone instead of the purpose. And unfortunately, subversion stopped being a tool and became the entire mission statement. Heroism was considered naive, good intentions were punished, and moral clarity was considered embarrassing, or as the kids say now, cringe. Fantasy didn't just want to surprise you, it wanted to scold you for expecting anything better.
I am simply wondering what manner of man would so readily abandon his companions to death.
Flashback. End of flashback.
And that's how we ended up with an entire fucking genre where every character feels like they're in some kind of competition to see who can be the most emotionally exhausted person in the room.
It is only natural to feel conflicted.
Conflicted? I am grateful you have not known evil as I have. I am not some courtier to be placated by idle flattery. I demand to speak with the king directly.
There is a tempest in me.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up, okay?
And honestly, if we were in the world of Pokemon, House of the Dragon would be the final evolution of that mindset. I mean, hey, I enjoy House of the Dragon. It's a good show. It's well made, the acting is great, the production value is insane, but emotionally, it's kind of like watching an argument between two people that you would never invite over for dinner. There's no emotional guiding star to follow, there's no one you actually want to see win, it's just a parade of deeply unpleasant people making awful decisions very, very slowly. And at some point, this moral ambiguity stops being interesting and just starts being numbing. And that's, excuse me. And that's the bigger issue under all of this. Fantasy isn't meant to perfectly reflect the messiness of modern life or reflect the world we live in today. It's meant to give us distance from it. I mean, hey, sometimes fantasy exists just to remind us what clarity feels like, which is why Night of the Seven Kingdoms feels almost rebellious. Because even though it's an HBO production, by comparison, it's small, it's grounded, and it's completely unashamed of being sincere. Dunk isn't trying to dismantle systems or redefine morality. He's just trying to live up to an idea of what a knight should be, and he's just trying to be the best version of himself that he can. And Egg isn't secretly evil. He's funny as fuck, but he's not evil. He's curious, he's idealistic, and that's the key part. The story doesn't treat those traits like there's some kind of flaw to be ashamed of. And these simple concepts are what makes this show quietly bold. It does something that modern fantasy seems utterly terrified of. It lets goodness exist without air quotes. Yes, bad things still happen, people still screw up, and the world is still harsh, but the narrative actually believes that choosing to be decent matters. Honor isn't some kind of punchline, and optimism isn't framed as stupidity, and that alone feels borderline radical right now. And this is where Tolkien keeps coming back into the conversation, because these very archetypes that he also used were not lazy. They weren't boring. They were directional. Fantasy heroes exist to show us who we could be, not just who we already are. The genre doesn't lose depth by having heroes, it loses depth when it refuses to believe in them at all. And here, sorry, I hate being sick. And here's what modern fantasy keeps forgetting. Subversion, when used right, is great, but subversion is like, well, it's like seasoning. It's not the entire dish. When everything is cynical, nothing feels sharp. When everything is bleak, nothing feels meaningful. And Game of Thrones was lightning in a bottle, but you can't f***ing build an entire power grid out of lightning in a bottle. You need something more stable, because stories teach us what's worth caring about, and a genre that refuses to believe in courage, sacrifice, or moral clarity eventually teaches you that nothing is worth striving for. And A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms quietly rejects this idea. It doesn't announce it, it doesn't posture about it, or make some kind of grand gesture. Nope, it just tells a good story with a moral backbone. So yeah, maybe fantasy doesn't need to keep proving how smart it is. Maybe, just maybe, it needs to remember why people fell in love with it in the first place. Fantasy wasn't for us to escape reality forever. It was made for us to come back a little more hopeful. And honestly, as long as this show keeps doing it, I will watch it for as many seasons as they want to make. But anyways, I want to thank y'all for listening to this tangent of mine. I know my voice wasn't the best in this video, but hopefully I'll start feeling better soon. I'm going to get back to work on the next video. Thank all y'all for watching, and until then, hope you have a great rest of your weekend, okay? See ya!